All right, today we're going to jump into the Tesla Model Y and whether or not you should be looking for a 2021 or a 2022. We dive into EVs like this all the time, and we're going to do it today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. All right, so there's a couple of things that's been going on here with Tesla. Obviously, the explosion of their growth in terms of both Model Y and Model 3 sales continued to go pretty much off the charts. And we've seen strategically what Elon has been trying to do with both Shanghai and Berlin, as well as Austin, and kind of how all this folds into what could be the strategy for Model Y going forward, because it has a lot of effect on the rest of Tesla's movement. And let me kind of explain what I'm talking about here. I want to jump to this first article. Model Y and Model 3 sales dominate the 2021 EV sales charts. It's not even close. I mean, Model Y is just absolutely, I think, become, and I think Tesla pretty much knew that this was going to be a winner. I mean, listen, they won me over to Tesla with that car, and I think they knew it was going to be a winner. So when the Car and Driver did their full list, Model Y ranked as number one with 76,000 units sold through the first half of 2021. That's pretty significant in any vehicle sales, much less in the EV sector, which is much different in terms of demand and productivity or production capability of where Tesla is going. So that in itself, and then of course what we've seen over the last 3 months has been several price increases, and also the used car market has really kind of exploded as well. So there's a lot of demand on just in general what we've got going on in the Tesla fleet. I'll kind of refer to it that way because you've got so many shortages from the chip side of things, and we'll get into those and why this might be really affecting how and if you should be buying a Model Y now, and I'll explain why. Before we get to that, I want to jump to a couple of things that happened here that I think starts to place the pieces of the puzzle together. So Tesla filed to produce 5 more versions of the Model Y at Shanghai Gigafactory, and of course, the breakdown, I mean, look at that lineup right there. This is just insane, the inventory that they are piling in China. So they filed with the Chinese government to produce 5 more versions of the Model Y. Obvious reasons, these are different versions. I won't pop these up for you since most of them are in Chinese, but we will go into the individual versions. There appears to be 2 Model Y standard range versions, which we have not had in the US for quite some time. There are and have been a standard range version that was a very short period of time that was for sale and then was quickly pulled from Tesla, at least here in the US. As they reported, Tesla recently launched the Model Y standard range in China. They are expected to do deliveries next month. Among the new Model Y versions they're applying to produce, there's also, get this, a long-range rear-wheel drive. So this is very interesting because this is something that I think a lot of people were looking at, is whether or not Tesla would produce a long-range rear-wheel drive in lieu of a standard range single wheel or single motor. And even though I think that is and has been kind of the factor that a lot of people are looking at in terms of getting a lower cost Model Y, the fact that they are moving out into so many different models in China tells you that the demand in China is absolutely overwhelming, and the opportunity for Tesla to really start kind of sharding off in terms of the number of models that they could sell. I never thought really Tesla and Elon would go in this direction, mainly because of that first principles kind of concept, is really trying to limit and assimilate your parts requirements to, one, reduce the amount of repairs, but also reduce the amount of inventory that you've got to maintain and keep in terms of supply chain, which is a big issue right now. So Tesla previously talked about launching its version Model Y as an alternative to the Model Y standard range. This was what their thing was. And of course, the production is likely going to be Tesla's biggest vehicle program growth during the entire second half of the year. So that pretty much tells you that the likelihood of Tesla continuing its growth over the next half year is full steam ahead on Shanghai. Shanghai being China, and the ramp up and the ability for them to really, I think, have good Q3 and Q4, because it seems as though their PR situation is reserved back a little bit. So that's all good for Model Y. Now let's talk a little bit about why and what is causing the potential shift. Well, it's not even potential, it's going to happen, the shift and the redesign of the new Model Y for 2022, and maybe why you should wait. So let's first take a look at what Tesla is doing strategically. So to this story here, Tesla is delaying their semi-truck to 2022. The reason, of course, pretty simple. It's basically saying we need the batteries. So Tesla's situation is we believe we remain on track to build our first Model Y in Berlin and Austin in 2021. The pace of respective roadmaps will be influenced by the successful introduction of many new products, manufacturing tech, ongoing supply chain related to the regional permitting, obviously within those markets. But to better focus on these factories and due to the limited time availability, battery cells, global supply chain, all those kind of things, they're going to remove both Cybertruck and semi-truck from the 2021 plans and roll them out into 2022. The question will be is how far down into 2022 do they get pushed in lieu of the Model Y taking precedence because of the demand from a global standpoint. I think Model Y is going to become the absolute poster child of the EV industry in its entirety. Just the dynamic of that car, the ability of it, the flexibility of it, the fact that it is a crossover, it meets and checks so many boxes. It's why you're watching this video. You're trying to make that decision of should I be jumping to the Model Y? And when? You know, that's the other thing. So let's talk about what the new Model Y will look like and also kind of some of the features. So this was a piece that really kind of zoomed in. Let me kind of jump up here. A lot of people say, hey, you know, this thing's perfect. Don't mess with it. It's fine, Elon. But the fact is that he said during his second quarter 2020 earnings call, basically said that the firm Tesla would roll out a new design of the all-electric SUV by end of 2021. So that tells me that most likely Austin is going to be the place, along with Giga Berlin, that we build or they build the new version of the Model Y. So if this happens in the fourth quarter, if it actually happens in 2021, that means you're getting the 2022 vehicles. Most likely, could it be maybe a vehicle that's coming off the line in December? Could be a 2022 with the new version design. That's a possibility, and I want to kind of talk about timing because this is really where it all comes together here. But the new car will feature a cast front end, rear body, and assuming tests are successful, a new structural battery pack. That, of course, what Tesla has really been kind of touting for the past couple of, well, actually for about the last year and a half. The Model Y is part of Tesla's plan to transition from the niche auto to obviously the mass market. Obviously, this is going to be a big push if they go. So we do expect to be producing the design of the Model Y in both factories, limited production this year. So that's 2021 right there. This is big because it's hard to, you know, when you think about where Elon's frame of thinking is, he goes back to this whole thing about manufacturing and how hard it is. And now you've got this global pressure on him and Tesla, mainly because of the Model Y, that you're literally pushing off production in other main lines of your business, meaning Cybertruck and with the semi, to handle the demand that I'm assuming they kind of knew that this was coming. But the fact that they are already redesigning, we already saw the mid-year redesign on the 2021 model, which you've got the new console, a few features cosmetically, but pretty much the same car. The 2022 is going to be quite a different one. So let me kind of just jump to this. Tesla had a track record production of rolling out. This is something that they did with the Model 3, and things kind of went awry on the Model 3. They started producing in limited quantities in 2017. They wanted to produce 5,000 cars, and instead they had to figure out, and in June 2018, follow up and said, now we're in production hell. And I think that's what they're dealing with in terms of the Model Y itself. So what's in the new redesign? The car should look pretty much the same from what Tesla is reporting, and also I think just from a manufacturing side of things, this car's too new to really look at a complete sheet metal redesign. So it most likely is going to be internal structure, some tech, and probably some computing aspects to where this goes. But when you look at the the layout of where Model Y is going, I want to kind of jump to this piece right here. The differences in productions themselves, the cars are going to be made with a new casting process. That's going to be a big one. The current, Tesla Model Ys that are built in California, they'll have the rear cast body only. The new one will be made in Texas. And then, of course, there's a few things that are going to be happening in the vehicle itself. So it's going to go to potentially the 4680 battery cells. That'll be another big issue of whether or not they can roll those out. And if they can, the key there is going to be a capacity, because you've got that issue. So the likelihood is you may not get 4680 in these in terms of what we could see moving down. My question is, what are going to be some of the refinements? There were even talks where Elon at one time was trying to figure out how to build this car without a steering wheel. I know that's crazy, but because of the fact of where he's looking at where this could potentially go in full self-driving and even into the the robotaxi kind of aspect of it, I think the key here is going to be interesting to see whether or not you should jump to the next version of the Model Y. And I want to jump to Tesla's site. So here I am, I'm building a Model Y right now. It is in August of this year, and let me kind of zoom up because we're a little too zoomed up there. For some reason that's not clicking out. But anyway, you've got a long range here. We're going to go with red and check the wheels, and nothing too crazy. We are going with the 7-seater, and you can kind of see purchase price setting in right there at the bottom at around $61,990, which is up quite a bit. And then you can see your delivery right here, December. Now, December would be very interesting because the timing here is going to be, would this be a Fremont car or would this be a potential Austin car? The key here is going to be very significant on when Austin launches and opens by Q4. So Q4 will be very critical, because if you're ordering a Model Y right now, you're going to get a December vehicle, most likely. If you're ordering here in August, the likelihood if you move out a month, okay, let's say that pushes to January. The real question is going to be when that 2022 model clicks over, and should you go ahead and jump up to the 22 with the length of time frame that you've got in play right now for ordering them. And that will be the big question, I think. And of course, the question is going to be how quickly they can move into the new version, whether it's the new full casting, whether it's a new battery, or if we start to see some cosmetic features, and mostly on the interior, I think, from an aspect of design in this new Model Y, much like what we saw in mid-year. The likelihood is we wouldn't see too many things on that, and that will be the question of where they're going with this. So here's kind of the scenario. If you don't need a car today, an EV, I would wait. I would step back for maybe 60 days, continue to take a look at the situation because of the supply chain issues. But the most important thing you have to track is the opening of Giga Austin. Giga Austin will be the place where your Model Y, the new version, is going to be built. I know they're going to have Fremont factory, and then that's going to be the question, because if you live on the East Coast, you're most likely going to get a Giga Austin car. If you're living on the West Coast, the likelihood you're going to get a Fremont car. So that in itself may be a scenario where people might start trying to hack the delivery zones of where that Model Y is going to be delivered from based on the new 2022 and where that new feature set may come from. Single casting, is it a big deal? Probably a little bit lighter. That's going to give you more efficiency. The fact that you're already going to get the refresh on the interior already there. I think it's the whole issue of people wanting that latest version. It's kind of like the iPhone, it's every year, you're going to get a new one. And I feel that's kind of like where Tesla is going with a lot of their production and where that is heading down the road. And it was interesting too, because I looked at this in comparison to like a Model X. And if you look at the Model X Plaid, which is weird, that the Model X Plaid is not as expensive if you compare to the Model S Plaid versus the regular Model X and the regular Model S. So my point is I think that a lot of the pricing mechanisms for both S and X are, whether it's been strategically being pushed because of to make room for factory capacity for Model Y and 3, seems to be the case. And I think we're going to see a slower fourth quarter on Model X and Model S. Again, because Model Y and Model 3 have just absolutely dominated the manufacturing floors, at Tesla. And I think this is going to be an interesting thing to watch. I've actually have considered buying another Model Y for our family because we're looking at, and the X is just so far out. We're looking into March. Even though right now, if you waited a couple of months, you're probably going to be in March anyway with your Model Y. But it's by then with a Model X, whether you go plaid or regular, now you're probably into summer of next year. So lots happening here on the Tesla front. Model Y, my recommendation, if you don't need a car right now, wait. If you do need a car right now, December is going to be your best bet. And you may get lucky if you're on the eastern half of the U.S. or there in the mid-central U.S. like Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana area. The most likelihood is you're going to get one of those out of Austin in the early releases. And that would be awesome if you could get that in 2021. Even though I think that would probably be a rollover year for 2022. So anyway, stay tuned right here as we get things moving on more and more EV topics. And of course, we'll continue to cover all these. We'd love to get your comments below on what you think about the Model Y and just in general, how Tesla is doing and where you think this company is going, because there's so much we do in terms of coverage on the stock analysis of this. And also, if you have an idea for a show, you can hit us up down there as well. If you want to reach me direct, you can hit me up on Twitter, just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.